Hi everyone, welcome back to Haunted Hearsay. Well, we're back. Um,
Hello.
I'm Dan and I'm in Dublin. This is Caroline and she's up in Donegal. Um, and we took an extended hiatus for the end of the summer there for a couple
Well,
of
it was
months.
needed.
It was needed, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, with the lockdowns and all that kind of stuff last year, I finally got an opportunity to go up to Donegal and to see Caroline in person, which is great. So,
And
uh,
we got out to do a few interesting things. And one of them was we went to the famine village in Inishowen
yes,
and all around the peninsula there. But you tell us more about that because we were in a castle there as well. You were doing
yeah.
EVP.
So yeah, we took a trip out to Inishowen and we had a big look around. And one of the places we went to, I can't even remember the name of the castle. Do you remember?
Doherty's Castle.
Doherty's Castle, right?
Yeah,
So it's basically a ruin of a fortress. It's up by where they filmed Star Wars, I
that's
believe.
right. Yeah.
And now I did a bit of EMF. I'll put some pictures up, and I did a small bit of EMF. The recording, I mean, the spikes they weren't big. But there was a little change when we went into the ruin. So it was picking up on something, whether that was a spirit or not, who knows? It could have been some sort of residual energy in the walls or
Oh,
something.
there's bound to have been, there would have been a lot of battles and a lot of
Absolutely.
tragedies along that stretch of water as well. Like so,
I'd
yeah.
also, I also did a recording in my house on Rutland Island, and again, nothing major, but I'll put that up as well with some pictures. That it kind of spiked to like I'll give so in comparison when I went to Donnybrook and went to the graveyard,
Hmm.
the spike was insane. It went up to like 18 or something, really high. This was only going up from zero to like a number five. So when in my house, and then in a show, and it was less. It was probably three or four. So it was picking up on something, but we were kind of rushed. There were other people there as well, so we sort of. I'll put it up, and people can see if they're interested.
Yeah, just exactly. They can decide for themselves. I mean, we found it to be very interesting around that spot. I mean, it's absolutely outstanding scenery. It's
Beautiful.
sort of, I mean, well, obviously it's still you're still in Donegal, like as it were. And also, I had the chance to meet up with a local writer and poet, Colette Gallagher locally. Very interesting woman. She has 4 books out and a lot of poetry. Just another book coming out now shortly. I'll get all those details again because we will be talking to her again in the future. But she told me a wee story as well. So we'll get to that shortly. She shared that with me. But I just wanted to say to everyone, like we have been away for a good few weeks. But it's not that we haven't got things lined up, and we're coming up into Samhain now again. This would have been the time in Irish history, well, for a brief period in Irish history, where a third of our children up here in Donegal would be getting selected to be sacrificed for Samhain. And that we're going to go through all that and the history of that and the story of that in the next, in the coming weeks that take us back up to Halloween. And the story really of that was Nemed and his tribe, which were from up here, had lost a great battle. And I don't know that it was, I know that we have Samhain was more like, mixed. It was a Celtic festival that was mixed with existing Irish festivals. I don't think the Celts were sacrificing children on mass. I think that was very much. I think it was a punishment really here against the people up here in the northern counties. But we're going to go into that over the next few weeks, and we're going to go into it more in depth. We did cover some of it last year, but it's interesting stuff. Sort of the origins of Samhain and how it came about to what we're celebrating now today, compared to what it would have been, say, 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
It is one of the oldest festivals still, celebrated in the world. So we're going to cover a lot on that. But you have a wee story for us as well now to get us kicked off again this week.
Well, I have just a quick anecdote. I've a few little things I wanted to mention. One was I had a premonition of my friends, I won't go into any I won't disclose any details, but my friend's relative passed away a few days ago. And I had a premonition basically that this person passed, but before they passed away. I mentioned it to you the other day on the telephone quickly, but basically at about 3 or 4 in the morning, I wasn't exactly sure. I got this overwhelming urge to check the obituaries to see if this person had died. And I knew that this person was sick, but this person had been sick for maybe 2 years. So it was a very slow illness. There was no sort of indication that that person was going to pass away straight away. And I just felt like I needed to check, and I checked and there was nothing, and I thought nothing of it. And I went back, I was like, right, I'm just being silly. And then I went back to sleep, and then I got a text message the next day to say that the person had passed away.
Yeah, see that's quite, that can be quite unnerving.
Yeah, it's still on my mind, really. It was only
Yeah, it can be quite unnerving when that happens. It's sort of, it's one thing talking about it, but it's another thing when you actually experience these things and it's sort of, oh.
and the other thing is, it wasn't, I mean, and I've said this before, but when I was 15, my grandfather passed, and the same thing happened. It was a bit more vivid. It was in a dream, and the next morning I was woken up to be told that my grandfather had passed. But I mean, nothing like that's happened to me since. And the interesting thing this time is this person's not related to me. They're not a family member of mine. I only
But
met.
they are part of your circle. They
Yeah.
are part of your peer group, So that actually leads on to the story that Colette shared with me, very kindly shared with me, and said that I could use. And it harks back to Colette's obviously worked and traveled, and she's traveled with her books, promoting her books all around the States. She's done a book tour around Italy, and she's very accomplished at what she does. Was previously a teacher, and her family home would have been up here in Corvine. And obviously, as they grew up, they moved away and built their nest elsewhere. I think she might have lived in Dublin for a long time, and then maybe in Letterkenny. But herself and her brother had the family home in his house beside it. I think they were both used as holiday homes. This was an incident that took place in 1992. And her father was still alive. And her and her brother, they'd gone down, they must have gone in for the weekend. And when they're not at the place regularly, they would do maintenance when they were there, like fixing the garden, mowing the lawns, anything that needed seeing to, they would do it. And herself and her brother were both out respectively working and, beside each other. And she had been into the house and her father was taking a nap on the couch. She was lying on the couch. And she came back out to the garden, got whatever she was looking for, came back out to the garden. And she just happened to look up and she seen her father walking across the field in front of her. And she got such a shock. She thought, I've just walked out of the house. He was lying on the couch sleeping. So he's just walked across in front of her. And she shouted out to him and he didn't respond and he didn't turn around. And she just walked from one side of the field to the next and was gone. That was it, disappeared. So she kind of ran back into the house to see, what's this? And he was still there. She said, I've just had the weirdest thing. I've just seen you walk across the field there. And so I don't know what he said, made light of it maybe, But whenever they were packing up to leave, say the following day, he got very emotional. She says, what's wrong? He said, I know, I have a funny feeling I won't be back here. And sure enough, the day after, he passed away. Wow. Now, I've heard that before where people have seen an image of somebody before they've actually passed away.
Yeah.
And it's like a sign.
Yeah.
She did go on to tell me, now that unnerved her, obviously, but she did go on to tell me that she also heard the banshee twice. And on both occasions, the first time it was a neighbor that died, and the second time it was an aunt that died.
Right.
So, I mean, as I say, this is a very accomplished, literate,
professional
woman we're talking about here.
Okay, yeah.
And, so there's definitely something to be said, but very similar to what you're talking about. And I understand that can be very unnerving when when you see it and see it, or, you know.
Yeah, and again, I've said this before, but it ties in. I had an experience with the same friend of mine where in 2012 we were all staying in the same house and we were working on a job together, a film, and um, my friend came into my bedroom, woke me up, and was like, "Ben, we have to get up. It's time to go." And I was like, "Okay." They left the room. I got up, got dressed. Um, I was ready to go, and then I went into my friend's room to see where they were, and they were still in bed, and they had never woken up. They hadn't even woken up. So I basically imagined my friend get up, walk down a corridor, come into the room, wake me up, tell me, speak to me, and then it just never happened. And when I saw them, they were fully dressed and like ready to leave. And when I went in,
And how would you try to explain that?
I don't even know. And I've said this to
Lucid dreaming, maybe, or
perhaps, or maybe again, it's sort of like it's not a premonition because I was up first in theory. So, it wasn't like I was imagining 5 minutes in the future or anything like that. It was basically I imagined the whole thing, but it was so real and so visceral, and I'd swear on my life that they had woken me up.
well, you see, now that's down to the power of the mind.
Mhm.
And I mean, we've had that conversation before about people that were put into, I'm not implying that you've lost the plot, but people that are put into mental asylums
Yeah. Well,
half
maybe.
the time. Were they actually mad? Were they, did they have stress induced lucid dreams like
Yeah.
what you're talking about?
No, this was a stressful time in my life anyway.
Yeah, I think that's possibly, that to me would make sense.
And I just thought of something as well. Another thing happened where myself and my friend Anthony both woke. We were staying in the same room on the island, and I woke up because I heard him shout my name, and he woke up because he heard me shout his name. And to this day, it's the weirdest thing ever. Like it was like
What
I
house was this in?
in the house in Rutland on the
Oh,
island,
right.
and Aoife was there, and Aoife is
Mischievous ghosts by the sounds of it.
maybe, but now I'm thinking maybe it's something to do with Aoife because Aoife was um involved in all three of these stories I just mentioned.
It's just dawning on you now that that's
But
very
there's
possible.
all of them, so I wonder if it's maybe, maybe there's a link between maybe I'm psychic when I'm around certain people, or maybe I tap.
No, I think you have the same with yourself and your sister Stephanie. Both have psychic abilities and psychic awareness. But
Mm.
it's like anything, you have to work at it and you have to develop it. And it's very possible with the sort of research that we do now for the likes of this, you could be opening yourself more to it,
Yeah.
which means that you'd actually make an effort to learn how to protect yourself and use it properly, first of all.
Yes.
That's always the most important thing for things like that when they happen.
Yeah. And try not to be such a wimp about it.
Trying not to be such a. I'm just look at it. I scare the bejesus out of myself on a regular basis. I don't need anyone else to do it. I'm very good at doing it myself. And I have a few ghost stories that I want us to go back over again. Proper ghost stories.
Mhm.
And there's one I'm going to go back over now, in fact. And it's just to get us back in the mood for, like, we're going to start, as I say, talking from next week on. We're going to do a little bit more on Samhain and the origins of Samhain, and try and bring in try and bring in a few more people to speak to. I still need to get over to speak to Joe over in Crawley Factory, so that's going to be good when we get him on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is a story of, this is going back nearly 50 years now, and a young man from over that side of the door over there was dating a young lady who was staying in Runnerfast. And so he had taken her out for the night, and he was taking her home. and dropped her down at home. And as he's coming along the road, now this is, you got to remember, between running fast and coming back up into Gweedore, it's hard enough to get a taxi now. Nearly 50 years ago, it was practically impossible to get a taxi or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's coming along like a really dark road. There's no street lights, very few house lights. And the next thing, there's the local curate from the local parish church is out on the side of the road waving him down. And he stopped. And what can I do for you, Father? I have a real emergency. Can you please take me home? I need to get to Glencolmkill as a real emergency. And sure, what could he say? You know, he's like, yeah, of course, I'll take you, no bother. And so we could.
Quite far away.
Yeah, well, see, Glencolmkill now from Running Fast, you're talking about an hour and a half.
Mm.
An hour anyway.
At least,
maybe in those days when there wouldn't have been as much traffic, but the roads would have been windier. So I would say an hour and a half, and minimum. So we're not talking just like a wee jaunt down the road. And so the priest hops in anyway, and the whole way to Glencolmkill, he's mumbling away to himself, and he's praying and he's mumbling and he's very agitated. And the driver, well, he just, he was uncomfortable and he didn't know what to say to him, and thought maybe someone's passed away or whatever, he has to get him down home. And when he got him down to Glencolmkill, he told him where to stop, which was the only other time that he spoke to him, and he let him out of the car. So he got home anyway and landed home, obviously, a few hours later than, said. No mobile phones in those days, so nobody to ring home and say, by the way, I'm giving somebody a lift, I'll be back, I'll be late. Mm. So, of course, the mum and dad are sitting there, because he said he was just running down to Running Fast. And where were you? And actually, I had to give, the new curate over in the Annigre parish, I had to give him a lift to Glencolmkill with some emergency and start telling him, what happened. And they looked at each other and they looked at him and said, well, you didn't give that man a lift. He died this morning.
Yeah.
We gave him a lift to Glencolmkill the whole way. Yeah. Now, I told that story to somebody a friend of mine who has a house right behind the chapel in Annigre. And when I told it to her, I'm not kidding, the two of us sat, it was like a draft went through the house and the hairs just stand on the back of your head. The two of us were like, oh my God almighty. And I hope I haven't invited him into the house on you. Yeah. So, isn't that just an incredible story? Like, we have a few more of those that we're going to reintroduce because of like the young girl that used to appear in people's cars coming in to Gweedore as well. And we have a few other stories that we have a wee bit more to add to them now this year. Mm. So in the coming weeks, it's going to be all Samhain and spooky tales for Halloween. And we're going to get a few pictures up for you. The EVP, Ben's going to put that up.
Yeah,
and you can let us know what you think. I mean, just give us a message, tell us what you think. I was also talking to another young lady there this week as well, a poet, and she writes poets about fairies.
Oh yeah.
Nice. And so I've invited her to come on, do a wee segment for Halloween.
Yeah, I've one quick thing for you. Did you see that video I sent you, the TikTok one with the lady that seemed to be possessed running up the wall of the church?
No.
I sent it it on Facebook a few days ago. I'll have a look.
Oh, send it again. I didn't see it.
We'll show it the next time, and you can tell me if you think it's real or fake or.
Well, do you know the one we watched? The guy in Rome in Italy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it wasn't. There was no running up the walls. There was no. But when she spoke, oh my God Almighty! I would put the fear of God right through you.
Mm.
Because I mean, she spoke. It sounded like 1,000 people speaking at once.
Yeah, and
it was like we are legion, but it was like that guttural sound that no one person could make.
Yeah, it's.
So you don't know. I often reserve judgment when I see things that are a bit OTT.
Yeah.
Because I think things that are a bit OTT sometimes are, they're dramatized for effect.
Yeah.
I don't know. We could be wrong. I mean, let's face it. The Exorcist wasn't dramatized for effect. The Exorcist was actually dumbed down.
Yeah.
And made more theatrical to sort of take away from the horror of the real story.
Yeah, it was. yeah, they kind of changed it quite a bit, didn't they?
They did, yeah, because
I
if
heard,
they'd have gone with the actual real story, retelling of the actual real story, they would have terrified people. So they had to make it a bit more theatrical and a bit more, you know.
the real story happened over such a long space of time. I believe, like the boy was brought to a Jesuit hospital and
Mm.
basically locked in a room until he was exorcised fully by the church. And um,
Yes, that's what we've learned through doing those programs about exorcisms. I mean, it's not a case of, you know, you feel like you've been, I don't know, whatever, if something's happened to somebody or whatever, it's not a case of them just coming in, throwing holy water, saying a prayer, and that's it. It can take anything up to a year, apparently,
or
of
more.
repeated, and usually people that are in those situations are vulnerable and are most likely in lunatic asylums. Not that there are lunatic asylums anymore now, but they'll be in secure hospitals, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And probably half the time, you know,
Yeah,
I was going to say half the time they don't need to be, but I mean, let's face it, if they're possessed by a demon, they probably do need to be.
needs to be somewhere anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I was all the sort of like, you know, the happy sides of sound, and then I forgot, no, sure, it's an absolute horror story,
Yeah.
actually.
But also for this year, this Samhain, I'll be coming up and we'll be doing what we were going to do last year, which was
Mhm.
the ferry. Um, we're going to take a trip out on the boat, I believe.
Weather permitting, they'll be running. Yeah, weather permitting, the Red Ferry will be running the scary tours for Halloween night, weather permitting, and we're going to do what our launch, wasn't it, for last year? So we'll do that.
We'll do it
We'll
this
take you
year.
around everywhere and show you what the shenanigans are here for Halloween.
Yeah, it'll be more fun than here, anyways. There's no trick or treating this year with the old virus that shouldn't be.
That's true. I think everybody's dying to get back out again this year anyway.
Yeah,
I know I for one am definitely, and I'm looking forward to getting out and just we can show people just different places how we celebrate it here, and pretty much everyone celebrates it now.
yeah, and like a lot of I've been seeing online and mostly on TikTok that a lot of people, especially in the US, they don't really realize the origins of Halloween, and they don't realize that it is its origin comes from Ireland. So
Yeah, and it's a very dark origin as well. I
yeah,
mean, to them, it's it's all fun and games, and it originated in America, but it didn't.
Hallmark, Hallmark version.
But they certainly made it a lot more popular and a lot more
Yeah.
mainstream. I mean, they took it and they zhuzhed it up a bit. And we can't complain about that, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Um, yeah, have you anything else you want to cover tonight?
Not really. I'll put up some pictures now, and I'll put up some of the EMFs if people are interested. There's nothing huge to say about them, but I think they're kind of interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, well, I thought the two of us could just get up, and I've been putting it off the last couple of weeks. I have an excuse every time because I've been getting into the habit of doing things in the evening. But I just wanted to get something out to say, you know, again, we really want you to tune in now, especially coming up now to Halloween. Every week we're going to have something to do with the origins of Halloween, and we'll tell you a little bit more about it. And we'll have another story. Now, some of them will be stories that we are going over from last year.
But we'll try to bring some more to it. You gave me an excellent collection of books that I've been digging into, so I'll come back with something from one of those books as well. That'd be nice.
Yeah, we've got an awful lot to cover between now and Halloween, and it's coming up, as I
It,
say, it's my
it,
favorite time of the year.
me too, and it feels a bit weird midsummer doing
I
ghostly.
know I mean, it's really raining here today in Donegal, but it's still warm.
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's yeah, it's nice to see it. That's really that was what the needs must were for the summertime, was just to enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
And I enjoyed my summer. I really did enjoy my summer. In fact, I'm missing COVID and the summer already.
But it's not now all our restrictions are gone next month completely.
Mm.
So there shouldn't be too much of a hassle to meet people either. And 90% vaccine uh in Ireland is 90% vaccinated, which I think is the most in Europe. So
yeah, I think we've caught up. I think people are sort of wised up. I mean, to be fair, anywhere, and I've travelled a fair bit of Donegal this summer. I've gone around the whole thing doing staycation at home, and we're very good here with our masks and our gloves and our washing our hands and things like that. The closer you get to the border towns, not so much.
Say nothing.
But you know.
But yeah, so yeah.
Hey ho, it'll not be for everyone. The likes of myself, I think I'll continue it regardless of whether I have to or not.
Oh yeah.
I like it. It suits me down to the ground. Keep your distance, please. Yeah, so we'll say goodnight tonight. We'll be back someday next week. We won't commit to a day. We'll just be back someday next week. We'll give you a surprise and tell you the day before when we're going to be back. But as I say, lots of good stories coming up now between now and our first anniversary of Haunted Hearsay. So yeah, I want to go back over a few of the stories that maybe some people might have missed and go back into them a little bit more in depth. And just to recover, I mean, you could never, we didn't have enough time to cover enough of Samhain last year.
Really, yeah.
You know, so it's, and I've read more and heard more, and you know, so yeah, so we can we'll do the story. It'll still be the same story, but we'll add a bit more to it.
And if anyone else, as always, if anyone has any stories or wants to get in touch with us, you can leave a comment below or try and reach out to us on Facebook. And make sure you like and subscribe. Yeah, please. And we'll see you next week. So from Donegal, Hawaii, folks. You're right. It's not